another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put 2 dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coon. The white man that go nuts if he can't shoot. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, given to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
To get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamin. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, please forgive me for my tardiness. I had too much going on. Okay, so hello, Reggie, Buckhorst DC, 504 Nola, Claudette. Let's get into it, Original Man. All right, Greta Lee is here. Lillian X, Chris B. Okay, let's get it popping. We the people. All right. Darling Mothers is here. Okay. Cookie, I see you, beloved. All right, so with that all being said, and without further ado, let's get ready to get into it. But first, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. I see you, Ashgon, beloved. Pretty Wings, Cookie. Okay, so everyone hit that like button. Desmond, D Major. Shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. All right, I see you, Emperor Rex and Annette. Let's get into it.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so with that all being said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Now, with that all being said, and also there's a sale going on this week, if I'm not mistaken. There's like a bundle package. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's talk about it. First, we're going to start with our war updates. But I would like to also just say that remember the other day when I told you about all the celebrities whose name had been put on the list after they were tricked into agreeing to perform at Trump's little U.S. Freedom 250 Festival shindig? Of course, then when they found out, because they thought it was, they didn't know it was for Trump, but when they found out it was, they all pulled out. Excuse me, most of them pulled out anyway, save for Vanilla Ice. Okay. Now, so with that all been said, they're now saying that Trump is canceling the whole thing. He said, cancel it. Okay, that's what he said, according to the BBC. He said, cancel it. He posted that on Truth Social, calling the slated performers overpriced and boring. He called them overpriced and boring. And I find that interesting because if they were so overpriced and so boring, why did he want them there in the first place? Okay, this man just cannot take rejection. But now, in the place of that, he's actually floating the idea of having a MAGA rally. So, nobody wants to perform for him. And can we blame them? All right. So, anyway, let's get into it. Because they have said that the U.S. struck Iran with those Hellfire missiles. So, let's get into it. Like, sub, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Start with Rubio getting all upset because Cory Booker told him that the U.S. was begging for a deal. And Rubio clearly didn't like that.
We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and we're in a stalemate with Iran. And now we're begging to get back into a deal that you all trashed in the first place.
There's no one begging. I don't
Clearly,
know.
this is a
Senator Booker, your time's up.
But
Senator Rubio, since he's
I do want to address some of these
respond.
points because they go to the heart of the matter. No one's begging for anything here. The Iranians might be begging because their economy's losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. That they are losing. Understand, Iran had street protests going on before all of this started. All of those factors, economic factors in Iran, are far worse today than they were 6 months ago when those protests were happening. They have hyperinflation. Their currency's completely devalued. They're struggling to make payroll for their government workers. Iran is in a very serious situation. And if it was up to the political class there, and I understand everybody there is sort of radical in some way, but if it was up to the people that actually go to elections and wear the suits and you see on TV, they'd probably make a deal tomorrow. It's the issue they're facing is that the supreme leader and the IRGC Corps are a little bit more immune from those pressures until they can be convinced otherwise. And I think that's the direction that they're moving in, because the reality I don't know where you're getting this perception that Iran is stronger. Iran has no navy left. They've lost a substantial percentage of their defense industrial base. That Iran has lost a substantial percentage of their missile launchers, and their economy is far worse today, and I mean far worse today than it was 6 to 9 months ago. And they are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars of reconstruction costs just to get to where they were 6 months
Mr. Rubio, you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying,
well, the war's over
completely
now.
Annihilated. The war is not over. And yet the American people see how we're losing at the pump and with their costs. And yet this thing still hasn't been resolved. Every day he tweets out, oh, we've obliterated them. We've annihilated them. They're going to surrender. But yet we still find ourselves spending billions of dollars a week
Senator
on
Booker,
a war abroad.
Okay, Marco Rubio is sitting there windmilling, trying so desperately to save face. Now you can tell that they're all just a bunch of whiny little snowflakes having these constant meltdowns anytime someone tells them that we're losing the war, that it's taken too long, go ahead and end it already, that the economy's in the tank. But then he wants to sit there and talk about Iran's economy. First of all, does he really think that Americans are concerned about what's going on with Iran's economy when ours is in the trash? Okay, way to gaslight and deflect. Like, he is so stupid. But let's continue, because I absolutely cannot with Marco Rubio. I mean, he's a complete idiot as far as I'm concerned. Now, here we have Chris Cuomo.
Secretary Rubio has his hands full. He has comported himself well in his position. He's evolved a lot from little Marco, as President Trump called him during the campaign, from the guy who was desperately reaching for the bottle of water because he couldn't handle a moment. But you saw his testimony, and he is trying to own bad choices in Iran, and he's trying to cover for this administration, and it's going to haunt him. He already has a very tall task to explain how he shouldn't be seen as being complicit in all the things that people are pissed off about this administration for when he decides to run for something else. And today, he did not walk on the right side of a very, very fine line. He is going to have to own, because what you ignore, you empower. And saying that we're not offering the regime any kind of relief or any kind of money, and that's a very hard line. If that doesn't wind up being true, he's going to have to own it. This was a big day. Breaking news.
First of all, Rubio thinks that he's going to be in charge of Cuba. Okay, that's why he's doing all of this bootlicking. This is what Trump has clearly promised him. Okay, there's no doubt about it.
This is Joshua Doherty, also known as Joshua Lloyd Fox. I know I'm convalescing. I don't feel super great, but there's more going on in the world right now that's not going to allow me to take a break, and you guys need to know about this. So it was reported this morning that the United States military, most especially the Air Force, has moved upwards of 60 KC-135s and KC-140 or KC-46s are main refuelers for any aircraft that can be refueled, fighters, drones, any of those, to the largest airport in Tel Aviv, Israel, from all of the other bases around the Middle East. It's also been reported by Axios that a conversation between Trump and Netanyahu kind of turned ugly, and it all points to one thing. The United States bit off more than it could chew with Iran. Now, Iran has canceled all negotiations for a peace treaty and opening up the Strait of Hormuz because we went against the ceasefire. We self-defensively attacked targets in Iran that I believe were, as I posted last time, hypersonic missile firing sites, which we don't have a defense against. And so we hit them preemptively, which went against the ceasefire that we established to negotiate peace talks and the end of this war. Iran has now ended all negotiations. So World War III is back on the table, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're moving all of our assets out of other bases around the Middle East and putting them into Tel Aviv. But let me show you. So this is Tel Aviv. Kind of zoom out a little bit here. And it's very dense in people. At one point, this was the capital of Israel, but we've moved that to Jerusalem. And when I say we, it was us. And this is the main airport, Ben Gurion Airport, where we have upwards of 60 plus tankers now sitting out here in these parking rows. I believe we moved them there because if Iran were to hit our tankers, it would hit a lot of this very urban area in Israel. And Israel has the Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, some of the other areas has the Iron Dome, but the Iron Dome cannot stop hypersonic missiles. And so we have now started moving our assets into Israel, which we didn't really have it before. And if you come down here into Gaza and the entire Gaza Strip, it's mostly all destroyed now. But from what I understand, two separate things are going to start happening here. One, they are wanting to make an additional canal. Here's the Suez Canal here, where most of the world's shipping goes through. And now they're wanting to create a second one from the Gulf of Arabia up through a land channel here, which will cut right through Gaza up to the ocean this way. Right here, you see that line there. They're wanting right where Egypt and Israel come together, and that's where the Gaza Strip is. We're also building military bases in this area now. Scroll back out here. You can see this is all of Israel. So it does seem biblical. I don't want to get into like end of days prophecies and stuff, but we bit off way more we could chew by agreeing with Netanyahu to go against Iran. I don't know why Trump did that. I do know that most of his cabinet warned him against doing it, but he did it anyway. And now we're having to face the consequences of that. And yes, we, the United States, Israel, the rest of our allies are having to face the consequences of Trump's actions. I don't know what's going to come, but moving all of our military assets out of the rest of the Middle East into Israel was always like last chance kind of thing. Like they're our biggest allies in that area, but we had military bases, strategic military bases all over the Middle East. Now we're moving all of our assets into Israel because they're like home base over there for us. That just means that like it's the end of the show. For us to move all of Central Command resources and all of the different military branches into Israel, out of the whole rest of the Middle East, I'm talking about Iraq, UAE, Oman, Kuwait, Saudi, because Iran's hitting those countries because they're supporting us. Like that's last case scenario. That's worst case scenario to actually move all of our assets back into home base. The only thing after that is moving everything back to the United States. And that will be the end all be all. Once we move all of our military assets back into the United States to defend the home front, then the whole rest of the world is against us. The other big thing that happened today is the negotiator from Pakistan between the U.S. and Iran is now super publicly promoting China and President Xi, saying that they are the world superpower, the economic superpower, and on par with the military superpower, which is the United States. The negotiator of peace in Iran is now publicly, loudly, and demonstratively putting their support behind China being the new grown-up in the room. Some more to come, everybody. These are huge things happening. That first, the negotiations breaking down, us moving our military assets into Israel, which is like, basically defending the flag, right? If you play capture the flag, all of our pieces and parts and people are now surrounding the flag. The only thing after that is moving all of our military apparatus back to the home front, back to the United States. And once that happens, we know the rest of the world is on fire. Stay tuned. I'm sorry I sound like crap today because I feel like crap, but I should be back to form eventually, maybe this week. Thank you all for the love. Thank you all for the messages.
Right. So with that all been said, a very thorough report. But here's my thing. While Rubio was sitting there talking about Iran's economy when ours, as I said earlier, is clearly in the tank. Okay. And then he's talking about how much it's going to cost them to rebuild everything. Well, how much does he think that it would cost if they had to rebuild those bases? Okay. I just have several questions. That's billions of dollars worth of damage. Okay. So the deflecting of it all. Now, with that being said, let's get into it because there's one more report. This is about 3 minutes long. Let's just go into it because this is an analysis. Here's why talks with Iran are taking so long. Okay, this is reported by the New York Times. Let's get into it.
With Iran are taking so long. In recent weeks, the president or his top officials have said an agreement is just days away. It's worth remembering what the president is and isn't negotiating here. It's not a peace deal. It wasn't intended as one. Just a framework to get commerce going while negotiations over a larger accord take place. So why is this so hard? One reason that this is taking so long is that it's the most inefficient form of negotiating you can imagine. It's not as if the Iranians and the Americans are getting in a room and hashing out a document. Instead, messages are being passed through Pakistan and Qatar. They then go to Iran, get put in the hands of couriers, and get taken to the new supreme leader, who is in hiding, fearing that the Israelis are looking to kill him the way they killed his father and the rest of his family. And on top of that very slow process, we keep hearing about changes to the text. At the end of last week, we understand that President Trump added some new wording, but that only encourages the Iranians to do the same thing. Each of these rounds take days and days. And there's a third reason it's taking so long. The Iranians have sensed that the United States is losing some leverage because President Trump, for all of his threats, is deeply reluctant to restart the active combat that we saw for 38 days, starting in late February. When he announced the first ceasefire on April 7th, he said it would be conditional on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. It wasn't. The strait is still largely closed. And the Iranians conclude that while the president may want to have the strait open, he's not willing to go to full-scale war to accomplish that goal. I've been covering Iran negotiations for more than 20 years, and one of the things I've learned is that while a framework might set a direction, all the important work happens in the details. The long delays in getting this document approved has given the Trump administration a taste of what later negotiations on the bigger accord with Iran, the nuclear agreement, could look like. In fact, President Trump went to war to avoid that exact scenario. He was trying to get the Iranians to, as he said, cry uncle, to give up their nuclear program right away. But the structure he set up encourages them to drag the negotiations on as long as possible, and perhaps beyond his term.
Yeah, because BP doesn't want to go to prison where he clearly belongs. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about Cassie. All right, let's talk about Cassie because they're saying that Cassie has packed up and fled the U.S. All right, let's get into it. Cassie flees USA after Diddy drama. This is reported by TMZ. So Cassie moved out of America at some point after being paid out $20 million from Diddy over his alleged abuse. And Cassie says, is it any longer alleged? Anyway, and Cassie says that she's got no plans of moving back. Now, TMZ obtained a court declaration dated May the 1st of 2026 and filed by Cassie in her ongoing lawsuit against male escort Clayton Howard, where she states, I reside outside of the United States. I do not intend to move back to the U.S. Honey, Cassie's trying to keep that bag. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. Cassie is trying to keep that money because remember, 2 of these escorts are suing her, not just Clayton. There is another one, and I forget his name. But anyway, they're suing her for millions and she wants to keep that money. So, yeah, I guess that's why she fled, if you ask me. But anywho, Cassie, who was pregnant and living in New York last summer when she testified in Diddy's federal criminal trial, also states in her declaration, I am a citizen of the United States. I am not a resident of the state of California. The declaration was filed in connection with the suit Howard filed against Cassie and Diddy in California. No word on where exactly Cassie is living abroad, but she says it would be easier for her to attend court and other legal proceedings in New York where her lawyers are, rather than California. And as reported, Clayton claimed that Diddy and Cassie hired him for freak offs, which he says ended with him catching an STD. Mind you, he said he also got Cassie pregnant and she had a abortion. Okay, Clayton said he was one of the 7 escorts who worked with prosecutors on Diddy's criminal case. Now, in his lawsuit, he claimed Diddy and Cassie subjected him to horrific sexual abuse that left him with physical and psychological injury. Now, for those of you that are members on this channel, you may remember, if you tuned in, that I read to you all the book that he wrote about Cassie. Y'all remember that? It was very interesting and salacious, to say the least. And quite frankly, I believe most of it. But anywho, let's continue. And so goes on to say that they subjected him to horrific sexual abuse that left him with physical and psychological injury. Now, in her newly filed response to the suit obtained by TMZ, Cassie claims that Clayton sent her husband, Alex Fine, a supportive message in 2023 after she came forward with her claims against Diddy. Okay, and I think this is the message he sent. It says, "This is going to be weird, but it's something I've wanted to do for years as I live with my own guilt and regrets. I know your wife's truth is 100% valid, as I'm sure you do as well. I would have come forward, and I'm glad she got some form of justice. I personally saw that guy do a lot of ish that was super not cool. A lot of what I saw really bothered me, and because homie was effed up, but I knew she was in love and wouldn't leave despite being beaten up and punched in the chest in hotel rooms, choked and forced into, it looks like it says sex, but it's bleeped out. I don't want to embarrass anyone with. Oh, now I'm damn happy you saved her. You were in the right place when she was finally strong enough to leave. Blessings. I tried to reach out when I heard about her suit because I know of the situation intimately for almost 8 years. I'm glad she got something probably not near what she deserves. I'm glad she got something probably not near what she deserves. But if she's happy, that's all that matters. Best to you and your family. I really want her to know. Please tell her Clayton says he's happy she made it. Okay, that's made it out. Now, I want you all to pay attention because, honey, that message doesn't sound anything like what he says in that book. Okay, now he was, and here's the thing. Now, I get it. He was trying to voice his concerns, and he's glad that Cassie got away from Diddy because he did say that Diddy would beat Cassie and all of those things, but he said Diddy would beat her when he was upset because she was doing things with the male escorts or S-workers behind his back. Even though we know that's no excuse for violence, he could have just left. But nonetheless, why is he reaching out to this lady's husband, telling him anything when you were her S-worker while she was participating in freak-offs? Okay, it's given messy boots, if you ask me. But let me continue. So anyway, goes on to say that TMZ previously reported Cassie scored a $20 million settlement from Diddy in her lawsuit against him, another roughly $10 million from the Intercontinental Los Angeles Century Hotel, where Diddy was caught on camera beating Cassie in the hallway. Okay, so Cassie is gone, honey. Cassie said, I'm out of here. And then she's talking about coming to court. Can they really make her come to court if she lives in a whole nother country? I doubt it. Especially not for a civil case. This is a civil case, not criminal. Okay, Reggie said Clayton is messy as hell for that. Isn't he though? Isn't he though? Reggie said, did he say he fell in love with Cassie? Yes, he did say that. And that's another reason he wants to sue her for having that bitch Orson. Okay, low down dirty snake. But anywho, let's continue. Like stuff, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now let's talk about the Karmelo Anthony case, okay? Because they're still in the process. As of today, they were still in the process of jury selection, and I believe it was reported that the trial actually will start, or the opening arguments will start on Thursday. So let's get into it. Now, I have a compilation of videos from people on TikTok and some news reports and all that. So let's just get into it. Like stuff, everyone, please, please don't forget to like and share. If you missed the morning broadcast, it was very important. Go back and watch it at your leisure. Okay, thank you.
Texas for day one of the Karmelo Anthony trial. Now, today and tomorrow is jury selection, and opening arguments for this trial are not until Thursday if the jury can be selected on time. Now, to give you guys an idea of what has already happened so far, this morning you had somebody who was kicked out of the courthouse for trying to film potential jurors, and you already had protesters here on behalf of both Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, with the protesters for Karmelo Anthony coming out in greater numbers. Now, some quick with pointers on this trial. What is not being discussed is whether or not Karmelo Anthony actually murdered Austin Metcalf. He has already admitted to that, stating that he acted in self-defense. But what is being debated is whether or not Karmelo Anthony acted in self-defense or whether he committed murder. Now, interesting caveat as well, because Karmelo Anthony was only 17 years old when the killing occurred, he is ineligible for the death penalty. So even if he is found guilty, the maximum sentence that he's going to get is life in prison. Now, Karmelo Anthony is already facing a first-degree murder charge and was initially held on a $1 million bond that he did petition to get reduced to $250,000. He cited financial difficulties, and a Collin County judge ended up reducing that for him. So he has since been on house arrest and out on bond after being issued that. Now, a lot of the controversy in this case did surround the GoFundMe that was created by Karmelo Anthony's family. Now, the family raised over $500,000, and it was found out that they were living in a home that was almost $1 million. A neighbor alleged that they had bought a new vehicle, and a family spokesperson stated that they were going to be utilizing these funds for security, legal defense, and also for the fight against white supremacy, stating that the criticism, the harassment, and threats that Karmelo Anthony were receiving after the stabbing incident were a direct result of white supremacy and racism in the nation. Now, simultaneously, the Metcalf family was also dealing with quite a bit of harassment and threats as well, and they were swatted 3 separate times, just to give you guys a reminder of what happened in the lead up to this case. Now, again, there have been extremely strict rules imposed on the media for this trial, and just to give you guys an idea of how secure they are trying to keep the courthouse grounds, the entire road behind me has been blocked off. They have specific places for protesters. There's also a strict curfew, and nobody can be on courthouse grounds from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And law enforcement has also secured a separate entrance for Karmelo Anthony and his family to exit and enter the courtroom. So an idea of, again, not only the strict gag order that has been put in place by this judge, the strict media rules, but also the other levels of precaution that are being taken to ensure that everybody in the courthouse and around the courthouse is safe and protected. So keep following along all week, because I will be on the ground covering this trial. Keep following me for more updates.
All right, y'all. So we have just wrapped up day 1 at the Collin County Courthouse for the Karmelo Anthony murder trial. As you can see, that is the courthouse in the back of me. And when I tell you it has been a long day, please believe me, this is what we're looking at. They had over 600 individuals to show up today for jury selections. Collin County, you showed out and did your thing for both. This is good for both sides, right? For both the state, the prosecution, and the defense team. Here's the thing. We didn't get a lot of movement on that. We were almost 4 hours delayed today. So what's happening is they were able to narrow it down to 500 people. They're going to come back on Wednesday morning if they are confirmed. They will be either confirmed or denied. If they are confirmed, they come back 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday. It's going to be a very long day. Interesting enough, listen, there was some white males on the jury, or that stood as potential jurors, that did not agree with the judge about the law. And they said, you know, you're talking about the law, and we understand the law, but this country has a complicated history when it comes to law, because our law has been very unfair to people of color. Woo, y'all.
Karmelo Anthony trial start today. The young teen, Frisco, Texas.
Well, it would be safe to assume that those Caucasian men who made those statements will absolutely be stricken from the jury pool. Okay, the prosecution definitely is not going to want them on the jury. Okay, please pay attention.
Charged with murder of Austin Metcalf. Just for the record, Karmelo Anthony was the victim. Karmelo Anthony was the victim the whole time. Karmelo Anthony was the one who was attacked. Y'all listening to his attackers. His attackers are the ones who are saying, oh, yeah, he said, touch me and see what happens. Those are his attackers. The only thing that's going to be argued in this case is whether the measure of self-defense matches the attack. That's the only.
And also, they supposedly have video footage that they never released publicly. And I believe they didn't release it because it absolutely shows the truth. But let's continue.
I think that's up for argument. And if multiple people attack you, and these people have about 50, 60 pounds on you, and you on top of some bleachers, it's reasonably. You can believe that your life is in danger. One of them could have hit him. He could have fell, hit his head, fell down the bleachers, and died. So Karmelo Anthony was the victim the whole time. He was the one under attack. And if Karmelo Anthony was white and the attackers was black, most of y'all would understand that. Most of you wouldn't even argue it. You would be screaming it was self-defense.
They absolutely would. They absolutely would, and we all know it. We all know it. The devils view law so differently when it's one of them against one of us. When it's them that is the accused, it's always so much empathy and sympathy and understanding. And, oh, woe, it's me. It was self-defense. But then when one of us claims self-defense, even when it actually is, they will sit there and act as though you're a cold-blooded murderer. This is what they do. And it even goes along with the stand your ground laws and the castle doctrine. Even when black people have absolutely been within their rights to exercise stand your ground, they have been sent to prison. And that's why we should all be very concerned. And also, speaking of Mr. Chow, do you all know that a Caucasian lady posted a video, and I don't know if it's true or not, because according to ChatGPT, there's no verified reports, but that doesn't mean it isn't true. But the lady said that Mr. Chow shot 2 other people. Did you all know that? And she says that the jury was not allowed to hear that evidence. He shot 2 other black people, according to her. Now, I don't know if she's lying or not, but that's what she said. Okay, I'll go to the video momentarily because I saved it on my X account, but let's continue.
Would be saying Karmelo Anthony is a hero. He fought off those thugs. Karmelo Anthony wasn't the thug. They were the thugs. They were the thugs. They were the ones who were attacking him just because of where he was sitting, and he refused to move because they told him to. He didn't have to move. But he was in his right to stand his ground when they attacked him.
Now, let me tell you something. That is exactly what they were saying. They were saying, a lot of white people were saying when it first happened that he should just have moved. So they really think that black people have to do whatever they tell us to do. You see, this is why they feel comfortable walking up to us and asking, who are you? Do you belong here? Who are you here to see? Where do you live? Can I see your ID? Because they really think that they have power and control over us. Okay, that's really what they think. That, oh, he should have just been an obedient little Negro and gotten up and left and moved. Now, in hindsight, I wish that he had. But the bottom line is he didn't have to. And they also tried to paint the narrative that, oh, because he didn't go to that school, he should not have been sitting under the tent anyway. But that's BS. Because different schools show up at track meets. Okay, because they may have, their school may have people that are competing. And so they come to watch. That's just how it's always been. Okay, we did the same thing when I was in high school, and there's no designated area that you specifically have to sit under this bench or on this side of the bleachers or under this tent because that's where your school is. Okay, they were being bullies, and they called him the N-word. The funny thing is, nobody's talking about that because it was also reported by people who claim to have seen what happened that they called him the N-word. Okay? They were definitely bullies. Because why were both of them attacking him? They snatched his phone. Okay, they pushed and shoved him and punched him, according to Quanell X. And I absolutely believe that's what they did. You see, the thing of it is, Karmelo is smaller than them. And I believe that he was absolutely afraid. Now, had that been a big black teenager who was their size or bigger, who was from the streets, that would have turned out differently because he probably would have just beat their butts and left it at that. Or better yet, maybe they wouldn't have tried him. But they looked at Karmelo as weak, and that's why they both felt like they could attack him and just talk to him crazy. But let's continue. That's just my 2 cents.
That's the only thing that's going to be argued in this case. Y'all have a beautiful day.
Man, so trial for Karmelo Anthony in high school stabbing case begins today. I ain't gonna lie, bro, this case about to have people out here acting crazy. I'm already seeing it, all type of weird shit going on. Man, I might be the only person out here that do not want us to be against each other. Y'all humans, gang, why are y'all doing this? You can say who you think is wrong in this case, but don't go off color, though. If we want the world to be a better place for our kids growing up, y'all being against each other ain't gonna help it. I'm mad that this trial even had to happen in the first place. I wish these two kids could have just got along, bro. We wouldn't even be seeing this right now. Instead, one life is gone and the other got to fight for his life in court. All of this could have been prevented if we just treat each other good. How hard is that treating another human how you would want to be treated? I don't know if I'm being soft. I just want the world to be at peace. I'm tired of seeing violence happen. I'm tired of seeing people not like each other because of the color of their skin. All of this got to come to an end. If you ain't going to end it for the next person, end it for God. Facts.
Austin Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms at a high school track meet, and now over a year later, the murder trial has officially begun. Here is a full rundown of day one, Monday, June 1st, of Karmelo Anthony's murder trial at the Collin County Courthouse in McKinney, Texas. First, let's cover the basics going into this trial. Karmelo Anthony, who is now 19, is charged with first-degree murder in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, with the trial presided over by Judge John Roach Jr. The stabbing happened April 2nd of 2025 at a track meet in Kirkendall Stadium in Frisco when both teens were only 17 years old. A grand jury indicted Karmelo Anthony on a first-degree murder charge in June of 2025, and he has pleaded not guilty. He's expected to argue self-defense. Since then, he has been on house arrest and required to wear an ankle monitor after his bond was reduced from $1 million to $250,000. Yesterday was day one, and it was just jury selection. Here is kind of how the jury selection actually unfolded. The day got off to a slow start. The judge began the morning by explaining the day's logistics and dismissing potential jurors who were not qualified for reasons such as criminal background, citizenship status, and this was from a pool of around 600 potential jurors. That process lasted around 3 hours, and it was done privately. Shortly after noon, Judge Roach addressed the remaining jury pool, which streamed virtually to attending members of the public in a separate room. So my understanding is that these people who came to just observe were sitting in a separate room, and it was supposed to be kind of live streamed to that room. He explained the role of the jury and emphasized the importance of compartmentalizing internal biases and hearsay while serving. Jurors were then instructed to fill out a 3-page questionnaire, which the defense and prosecution will use to narrow down the pool to around 250 people. Potential jurors who are asked to return will be notified this evening, Tuesday evening, and are expected to return for further proceedings on Wednesday morning. The judge ultimately expects to seat 12 jurors. The trial is expected to last through at least June 12th and will include Saturdays, with opening statements scheduled for this Thursday. So now let's talk about the scene outside and inside the courthouse. Before the trial began, the judge issued a gag order effectively barring anyone involved in the trial from speaking to any kind of media. Cameras, live streams, and video recordings are banned from inside the courtroom, but I know that sounds confusing. They're only live streaming it to the people who are sitting in the observatory room, I guess you could say. And demonstrators must stay outside a specific perimeter surrounding the courthouse. Think Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, like they were kind of forced. Any of the spectators or protesters were expected to stay within a certain distance of the courthouse. The judge also banned cameras, cell phones, and other electronic devices to minimize outside interference and prevent the trial from becoming a courthouse spectacle, although it seems like it already has. Prospective jurors arrived amid very tight security, and outside a cluster of demonstrators held signs, waved flags, handed out flyers, all on the perimeter of the courthouse. Demonstrators turned out in support of both Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. However, I follow someone on Facebook called Sarah J. Fields, and she was there at the courthouse yesterday, and she said about 95% of the people outside were there in support of Karmelo Anthony, that they were wearing his favorite color, purple. They had purple shirts and hats supporting Karmelo Anthony. The case has drawn nationwide coverage since Austin's death, with social media narratives largely centering on race and unfortunately misinformation spreading over the last year. Karmelo Anthony is Black and Austin Metcalf was white, and the case has produced deep division online over its racial undertones. A legal expert that was speaking to Fox News framed the judge's challenge as balancing demonstrators' freedom of speech against the defendant's right to a fair and impartial jury, keeping crowds at a distance so that witnesses aren't pointed out or threatened. It's worth noting, though, that according to that Sarah Fields page, she said there was one person who was escorted out of the courthouse for allegedly trying to record some of the potential jurors, which could be jury tampering. And it's unclear which side of the aisle she was on, but it's being suggested that she was a supporter of Karmelo's. Now, a bit of background context that came up in coverage. After the stabbing, Karmelo Anthony allegedly told officers that he was protecting himself and that Austin Metcalf had put his hands on me, that's a quote, and he asked officers whether his actions could be considered self-defense immediately after the incident. Police said that the two got into an argument over seating in the stand before Karmelo stabbed Austin in the chest with a pocket knife. Karmelo was then moved to an undisclosed location following a surge of death threats and harassment directed at his family, and his legal defense fund has raised around $600,000. So the bottom line for day one is that no jury was seated, no testimony was heard, but opening statements are targeted for Thursday. So make sure you're following me for updates on this case and other true crime content daily.
The 17-year-old track star that allegedly stabbed another 17-year-old track star and killed him last year in Frisco, Texas, is finally going to trial. So you probably remember last year, Karmelo Anthony was a student in Frisco, Texas. Austin Metcalf was another student, and allegedly Karmelo Anthony took a cleat sharpener and stabbed Austin Metcalf at a school at a track meet. Karmelo Anthony was able to get out on bail and even graduate from high school, all while Austin Metcalf's brother had to accept his diploma on his behalf just last week. And over the past year, nobody's really been talking about the case because nothing's been happening until now, when the case is finally getting put into motion. The Karmelo Anthony trial is set to begin this Thursday, and allegedly they're going to be highlighting the size difference between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. At least that's what people are claiming his defense is going to say, to claim self-defense, saying that Karmelo Anthony is only 5'9", 130 pounds. Meanwhile, Austin Metcalf was 6 foot tall and 225 pounds. And according to Karmelo Anthony and his family, he was in fear for his life because Austin Metcalf was being very aggressive and telling him that he could not sit in that area at the school, and allegedly even put his hands on Karmelo Anthony. Now, something we're waiting to see is that allegedly there is a security camera footage of exactly what happened, and we're going to find out, did Austin Metcalf put his hands on Karmelo Anthony first, or did Karmelo Anthony unprovoked stab Austin Metcalf?
Passionate to both sides. With that being said, breakdown of what happened, as far as we know, goes as follows. April 2nd, 2025, both Austin and Karmelo were at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Apparently an altercation broke out. Austin ended up getting stabbed. He was later rushed to the hospital where he passed away. Now, police say after that Karmelo admitted to stabbing Austin, but said he did so to defend himself. Initially, Karmelo's bond was set at $1 million, but because people had favorable things to say about him and he had no prior record, that was reduced to $250,000. Karmelo's parents have done press conferences stating that people were coming after them. There has been a lot of online tension surrounding this trial. Because of that, the judge has set some very strict rules in Collin County, Texas, how this trial is going to work. There will be no live streaming. There will be no audio or video recording of the trial. There is a strict gag order in place for anybody connected with the prosecution or defense, including witnesses and experts. It has also asked that there be no protesting outside of the courthouse. Real question I have is there somebody in Collin County who doesn't really know anything about this trial, and if they do, has not formed an opinion on guilt or innocence of Karmelo Anthony? I don't know. And in a murder trial like this, both individuals are so young, it's going to be very difficult for any jurors to remain objective. Things that I'm going to look for are the makeup of the jury. Once that is released, if it is released, the prosecution asks for any lesser included offenses, meaning crimes that are less than a murder charge, because that might be a sign they don't think they can get a guilty on a first-degree murder charge, which is currently what Karmelo is charged with. And 3, for any new witnesses who saw anything that we haven't heard about yet. I'm definitely going to be following this trial. You let me know your
jury selection begins today right here at the Collin County Courthouse in McKinney in the trial of Karmelo Anthony. He's the 19-year-old who was accused of stabbing Austin Metcalf in April of last year at a Frisco ISD track meet. This case captured national attention. There's been a lot of debate on social media over stand your ground laws, race, lots of social media controversy. In fact, there's been so much tension, threats, and controversy that the judge issued a gag order last year to prevent either side from talking about the case. If you haven't heard
I'm sorry, I forgot I was muted. I was just sitting here talking. Okay, Flower Lotus says, is first degree premeditated? Yes, beloved, it absolutely is. It means that the person planned it or they either lay in wait. Now, with that all being said, someone put in the comments, because I didn't know this, that some of the racist devils were saying that because he asked questions of the police, that made it premeditated. Well, I don't know how they would think that, because he didn't have any interaction with the police until after the fact. Okay, that's when the police came up to him and questioned them, and he answered the questions or whatever. But that would not show premeditation because he spoke with them after it had already occurred. Okay, but let's continue.
About this case or don't remember what happened, here's a quick refresher. According to those witnesses, Anthony came over to Metcalf and some other people under a tent on the bleachers at a Frisco ISD track meet. Witnesses said Metcalf told Anthony to leave. Anthony said, quote, touch me and see what happens, while he reached into his bag. One witness said that Metcalf touched Anthony. Another witness said Metcalf grabbed Anthony. That is when, according to police, Anthony pulled a knife out of his bag, stabbed Metcalf once in the chest, and then ran away. According to a police report released just a couple days after the stabbing, Anthony admitted to police that he stabbed Metcalf, but he said it was in self-defense. Anthony is currently on house arrest at his parents' home.
Everybody knows self-defense is going to play a major, integral part of the Karmelo Anthony trial. But there's another principle that deserves your attention, and that principle is jury nullification. So what is jury nullification? Well, in a criminal case, that's when the jury returns a verdict of not guilty, even though the state proved each and every element of their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and they come back with that not guilty verdict because they think it's unfair or unjust. Pay very close attention in this case to the attempt by the defense to paint the victim as an aggressor or a lifelong bully. Now, remember, this will serve two purposes.
That's what people have absolutely said about both he and his brother. Okay, so they should be painted as exactly what they were. People have said, according to Quanell X, people who've gone to school with these two have said that they were bullied. Okay, please pay attention.
One, it would support a self-defense argument. Number two, it's going to influence the jury, or at least they hope it will, right? So you got to remember, a lot of times in these trials, this is a battle of juror sympathy, not a battle of the facts. The facts don't always matter. This one you need to pay attention to.
And what you and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We're loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us.
It looks like we're going to be in for a bumpy ride, folks. I'm wondering how long this is going to last. Now, someone asked the question, was the death penalty on the table? And no, it is not. But as I told you all, they have charged him with first-degree murder because they know it wasn't premeditated. They absolutely know that. But they want to get him on something, as I told you, because if the jury doesn't find him guilty of first-degree murder, they can always find him guilty of a lesser charge, okay? So if the jury finds Karmelo Anthony not guilty of first-degree murder, they can legally find him guilty of a lesser included charge, such as second-degree murder or manslaughter. Now, whether a jury can consider a lesser charge depends entirely on the specific jury instructions provided by the judge at the end of the trial, which are based on the evidence presented in court. Now, and mind you, the judge is a Black woman, according to reports. I saw a picture of her. Some people did videos about it. Now, the process. A jury must first consider the most serious charge, first-degree murder. If they acquit the defendant of that top charge, or if they're deadlocked and the judge allows it, they can then consider whether the evidence proves all elements of a lesser crime. Self-defense and lesser charges. Now, in cases where a defendant claims self-defense, judges often instruct the juror or the jury to on lesser included offenses. Now, if the jury agrees the defendant used deadly force, but finds the state failed to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt, the defendant is completely acquitted. However, if the jury believes the state disproved self-defense, but that the killing was committed without premeditation, impulsively in the heat of passion, for example, they can convict on a lesser charge. Now, legal procedures regarding jury instructions and included offenses can vary significantly by state and jurisdiction. Okay, so that all been said, let me tell you something. What they're not going to do is they're not going to let him just get away scot-free, which he absolutely should, because it absolutely was self-defense. Okay, it was absolutely self-defense. And let me tell you something. If he were to walk, they would have to have some very tight security once he steps outside of that courtroom. They've already been threatening his family for the past year and a half or so. Okay. They've always been, they've just always been trying to paint this narrative that Karmelo was just some thug. They even posted on X, like over a year ago, they posted a picture of a guy, a black guy who had his hair like Melo's, but this guy was sitting it looked like he was in a dope house, sitting there with all these big guns and all this money around and all of that. And they were trying to paint the picture that this is Karmelo. Okay, and then, like I said, when they received the money and donations, they sat there and said, oh, they went and bought a house, they went and bought a car. They didn't spend that money on that. Okay, not from what I remember. All right, that's just the portrait that the racist devils, the MAGA types, painted, because they were so upset, you see, because Black people sent all of that money, because we donated, okay, more than $500,000 to that young man's defense fund. And they don't like that, because now they see that we're on code and doing the same thing that they do for their accused. Only sadly for them, their accused are always guilty. They always did it. Okay? So with that all been said, they wanted to discourage us from continuing to send money and just to, not to keep doing such things or whatever. That's all that was. You think those people were dumb enough to spend the money on a house and a car, knowing their 17-year-old son, he was 17 at the time, could possibly be going to prison for life? Who does that? But it's the ignorance of racist demons and devils. These are the narratives that they'll paint and spew. These are the lies that they'll tell, and justice to them looks so differently when it's us on the other side standing in the defense after they've had to defend themselves against one of them. They had no problem with the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse, and yes, I said Rittenhouse, took a gun to a protest and murdered 2 people. They had no problem with that. But now they want to sit here and paint this picture that this young man had a knife in his backpack. Even if he did have a knife in his backpack, it was only used after he was attacked. That's the bottom line. But they want to say, oh, he had a knife in his backpack. But from what I remember, witnesses supposedly saying, and we won't really know the full scope of the evidence until the witnesses testify and the video footage is presented in court. Okay, but they want to paint these narratives. Oh, he brought a knife. They said that knife was already there, that it was lying not too far from him. Okay, that it had been used to put up the tents. Now, did someone just make all of that up? Because I don't think so. But the bottom line is, if he does walk, or he doesn't get the amount of time that the devils think that he is due, there's going to be a whole lot of BS going on in Frisco, Texas. And I can assure you of that, and not just in Frisco, Texas. Okay, Black people everywhere will likely have to look over your shoulders because they're going to be mad. Okay, they're going to be mad. And we know how the devils do when they get upset. Okay, acting like a bunch of savages. That's what they do. Act like a bunch of animals. That's what they do. Okay, please pay attention. But they want to paint the narrative that we're the ones who are violent. We've never had a history of going around killing them, lynching them, and hanging them from trees. We don't have a history of walking up to them and calling them racial slurs. We don't have a history of always being in their business and asking them, who are you? Why are you here? Can I see your ID? We don't have a history of any of these things, but somehow they've convinced many of the people in the world that we're the bad guys. And I want you all to remember that, okay? That's what the devils have always done. Now, on that note, I'm going to conclude the broadcast, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I told you all this video was only going to be an hour. I made it right on time, okay? But I will see you all in the morning with your morning wake-up call and more updates and all of that. Until then, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. And prayers for Karmelo Anthony and his family. All right, with that all been said, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Hey, yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got